I still vividly remember the terrifying experience on a rainy night, which sends chills down my spine whenever it comes to mind. It was my first year working in an advertising agency as a copywriter, fresh out of college and full of enthusiasm. To demonstrate my dedication, I was often the last one to leave the office. That particular day, our entire team was stuck on a project with a looming deadline. We had no choice but to work overtime to get it done on time. By the time I finished my tasks, it was already close to 2 a.m. The company was empty, the lights in the hallways were off, and only my desk lamp illuminated the darkness. Exhausted, I stretched, turned off my computer, grabbed my coat, and headed out. The company was located in an old neighborhood, and my car was parked in a nearby open-air parking lot. It was pouring that night, with large raindrops splattering on the ground, creating a symphony of water. With one hand holding an umbrella and the other clutching my briefcase, I quickly made my way through the rain towards the parking lot. The desolate parking lot seemed exceptionally eerie in the dead of night. The dim streetlights emitted a faint glow through the misty rain, casting long shadows. I pressed the key fob from a distance, and my car's headlights blinked twice in response. As I walked towards it, I caught a glimpse of a dark figure darting across the corner of the lot. I stopped, turned to look, but saw nothing. Maybe it was just my imagination, I thought, and continued walking. But after a few steps, I felt an unsettling presence, as if someone was watching me from behind. A chill crept up my spine, and my instinct screamed that something was wrong. I quickened my pace, almost breaking into a jog, my heart pounding wildly. Suddenly, a hoarse voice bellowed from behind, "Stop right there." My heart leaped into my throat as I turned stiffly, only to see a tall, dark figure running towards me. In the dim light, I could make out a black raincoat, the hood covering most of the face, revealing only a pair of bloodshot eyes staring at me intensely. In his right hand, he seemed to be holding something that glinted coldly. Help! My mind went blank, and I ran on pure instinct. The man sped up, chasing me, shouting words I couldn't make out. We were engaged in a terrifying pursuit across the empty parking lot. My lungs felt like they were about to explode, and my legs were as heavy as lead, but the fear kept me going. Just as I reached my car, I mustered the last ounce of my strength, leaped forward, yanked the door open, and jumped into the driver's seat. In my panic, I nearly dropped the keys. As I trembled, trying to start the engine, the man reached my window, banging on it frantically, yelling, "Open the door! Give me your car keys!" At the last moment, the engine roared to life. I slammed the accelerator, and the car shot forward. I heard a loud thud behind me, like something heavy hitting the car's body. Glancing in the rearview mirror, I saw the man angrily waving the object in his hand, chasing me for a few steps before collapsing, exhausted, vanishing into the rain. Even miles away, I was still shaken, my hands trembling so much I could barely hold the steering wheel. The remnants of my rationality told me to call the police immediately, but the fear urged me to flee as far as possible. That's when I noticed something wrong with the car's handling. Listening carefully, I heard the hissing sound of a leaking tire. I had to pull over to the side of the road. Getting out, I discovered the left front tire was completely flat, with a large puncture from a sharp object, likely the item the pursuer had been holding. I slumped against the car door, sitting on the wet ground, letting the rain soak me through, overwhelmed with emotions. Who was he? Why did he target me? Questions swirled in my mind, but no answers emerged. I had no choice but to call for roadside assistance to change the tire. The wait for help felt like an eternity. I didn't dare leave my car, fearing the sinister figure might reappear. The empty streets occasionally echoed with spine-chilling noises, each second dragging on like a century. When the tow truck finally arrived, dawn was breaking. I numbly watched the mechanic change the tire, hastily filled out some paperwork, and drove off as if escaping. After that night, all I wanted was to get home, crawl under the covers, and sleep off this horrific encounter. But I knew this memory would be forever etched in my mind, an inescapable nightmare. The identity of the mysterious stalker would likely remain an unsolved mystery, constantly haunting my thoughts. I don't know if I'll face similar dangers in the future, but this experience has undoubtedly made me more cautious and alert to the risks around me. After all, in the intricate web of this city, no one can predict what waits around the next street corner. All we can do is protect ourselves to the best of our abilities and face life's unpredictable thrills and chills. I'm a freelance writer, often burning the midnight oil to meet my deadlines. Living alone means I can work into the wee hours without disturbing anyone. My apartment is in an old residential building, probably dating back 3 or 4 decades. The walls are thin, and I can often hear my upstairs neighbor's footsteps or the sound of the TV next door. But after living here for so long, I've grown accustomed to it. That night, I was rushing to finish a piece due over the weekend. The sky had long turned pitch black, and the rain pattered incessantly against the window, sounding particularly clear in the quiet of the night. I was hunched over my desk, fully focused on the computer screen before me. After some time, I gradually sensed that something was amiss. Amidst the rainfall, there seemed to be a faint, peculiar noise. At first, I thought it was just my neighbors. But listening closely, it sounded different. The noise was soft yet grating, like fingernails scraping against glass. A chill ran down my spine, and my fingers froze over the keyboard. The moment I stopped typing, the sound abruptly ceased. The apartment was quiet again, save for the dripping rain. Perhaps I was just imagining things due to overwork. I rubbed my tired eyes and got up to pour myself a glass of water. Just as I picked up the glass, the sound returned, this time a bit clearer. It wasn't just scraping, it was more like someone tapping their nails on the glass, making a slow, eerie tap, tap, tap rhythm. My heart began to race. Who could be tapping on my window at this hour? I held my breath, trying to pinpoint the source of the sound. The tapping was intermittent, seemingly moving around. I crept to the window and lifted a corner of the curtain to peek outside. However, all I could see was a hazy veil of rain, the streetlights casting a dim glow. There was no sign of anyone. Yet, the tapping grew louder, as if echoing right beside my ears. Fear gradually gripped my heart. I realized that whatever was making the sound might not be human at all. Suddenly, the tapping turned into a frantic pounding, rattling the glass violently. I stumbled backward, collapsing to the floor. The pounding persisted for a few seconds before stopping abruptly, leaving only the sound of raindrops splattering. I sat on the floor, gasping for air, cold sweat soaking my back. After a long while, I shakily got to my feet and peered out the window once more. This time, I saw a shadowy figure. It stood right under the streetlight, looking up in my direction. Through the curtain of rain, I couldn't make out its face, but its silhouette was tall, and it seemed to be wearing an eerie white mask. I hastily drew the curtains and staggered to the door, locking it. I snatched up my phone and dialed 911. Hello, police? There's a suspicious person outside my apartment. Please send someone quickly. I said urgently, my voice trembling. Sir, please calm down and explain the situation clearly. the operator replied in a steady voice. At that moment, a pounding on my door startled me. Bang, bang, bang. It was even more violent than the earlier tapping, as if trying to break down the door. He's knocking on my door now. I nearly screamed, "Please hurry." The pounding continued, growing more intense and louder with each blow. My vision blurred, my legs turned to jelly, and before I knew it, the phone slipped from my hand. I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was lying in a hospital bed. The police told me that when they arrived at the scene after receiving my call, they found me collapsed in the hallway outside my apartment. But they didn't find any suspicious individuals. Over the next few days, the police investigated the entire building and questioned all the residents, but no one reported seeing any mysterious figures that rainy night. The security footage only showed my lone figure. And so, this bizarre incident remained a mystery. But for me, it became a haunting nightmare. I no longer dare to be alone on rainy nights, nor do I go near the window that was once tapped. I even moved out of the apartment I had lived in for years, just to escape those terrifying memories. However, the fear has never left me. Whenever the night grows still and the rain patters outside, I feel as if that eerie figure is still lurking somewhere, watching me with its hollow eyes, waiting for the next rainy night to descend. My name is John Lee, a third-year medical student at Yale University. I grew up in a modest, working-class family in New Haven, Connecticut. To help ease my family's financial burden, I took a part-time job as a night shift librarian at the university's medical library. The Yale Medical Library is a decades-old building, bustling with students during the day but eerily quiet at night. The library boasts an extensive collection spanning all academic disciplines, with the medical section housed on the third floor, containing a vast array of medical texts from around the world. One stormy night, heavy rain battered the library's windows, creating an unsettling atmosphere. Due to the inclement weather, there were few patrons, most of whom left hurriedly before closing time. By 10 p.m., I was the only soul left in the cavernous library. The sound of the rain echoed through the empty halls, amplifying the already pervasive silence. I sat at the circulation desk on the first floor, using the faint light of the desk lamp to sort through the medical books I had collected from the shelves. Suddenly, I noticed something peculiar. Several books were haphazardly placed, entirely inconsistent with my usual meticulous organization. Could it have been a careless patron who misplaced them? Frowning, I carefully rearranged the books. As I focused on my task, I heard the faint sound of footsteps emanating from the bookshelves behind me. I whipped my head around, but saw only rows of shelves and no one in sight. Shaking my head, I silently chided myself for being paranoid. At that moment, a hardbound book from the top shelf unexpectedly fell, landing heavily at my feet and sending up a cloud of dust. I picked up the book, realizing it was a yellowed, antique medical tome. Oddly, the spine was spotless, as if it had recently been handled. A sinking feeling crept over me. Surveying my surroundings, an inexplicable atmosphere seemed to permeate the empty library. As I moved to return the book to its rightful place, I caught a glimpse of faint footprints on the floor near my feet. The prints led from the shelf toward the reading room, starkly visible under the harsh fluorescent lights. Unable to contain my curiosity, I cautiously made my way to the reading room. In the dim light filtering through the windows, I spotted a shadowy figure seated at a distant study table. My heart leapt into my throat. Just as I was about to call out, the figure abruptly stood and quickly disappeared into the depths of the shelves. I hurried after the mysterious figure, but upon reaching the spot, I found myself alone, The air in the narrow aisles felt stagnant and oppressively heavy. Perplexed, I was startled when the desk lamp behind me suddenly flickered to life, its glaring light sending a jolt through my body. Rushing to the desk, I discovered the once neatly stacked medical journals were now in disarray, several lying open as if hastily perused. Yet, there was no trace of any patron's presence on the desk or nearby. A chill ran down my spine as a terrifying thought surfaced. Could there be something sinister lurking in the library? As I grappled with this unnerving realization, a mocking laugh echoed behind me. Hey, burning the midnight oil? How dedicated. I spun around, but there was no one there. Cold sweat drenched my back as I bolted from the reading room, sprinting as if my life depended on it. I burst into the staff room and slammed the door shut. Collapsing into a chair, I gasped for air, my mind reeling from the night's eerie events, the disarranged books, the inexplicable footprints, the vanishing figure, and that bone-chilling laughter. What on earth was going on? A flash of lightning illuminated the night sky, casting a ghostly light through the window and onto my pallid face. I tried to make sense of the bizarre occurrences, but no rational explanation came to mind. When I recounted these strange events to the head librarian the following day, he merely smiled faintly, attributing them to my exhaustion-induced hallucinations. My colleagues, too, brushed it off as a humorous anecdote. From that night onward, I never encountered any similar disturbances during my shifts. Life at the library seemed to resume its normal course, yet the memories of that haunting night lingered, forever etched in my mind. Even now, years later, as a practicing physician, I often find myself reflecting on that enigmatic experience. The unsettling events of that stormy night at the Yale Medical Library have left an indelible mark on my psyche, serving as a reminder that there are mysteries in this world that defy logical explanation. Though I may never fully comprehend what transpired that night, the haunting memories continue to resurface, sending a shiver down my spine and filling me with a profound sense of unease. It is an experience I will carry with me always, a chilling reminder of the inexplicable phenomena that lurk in the shadows of our world.